that's being laid out today, and what kind of consistency the public can expect as we go into her tenure, assuming she's confirmed, with the program that you're laying out today. Will it carry on under her leadership?
Yes, it will. I have always consulted closely with Janet, even well before she was named by the President, and I consulted closely with her on these decisions as well, and she fully supports what we did today.
Robin Harding from the Financial Times. Mr. Chairman, your inflation forecasts never get back to 2% in the time horizon that you cover here out to 2016. Given that, why should we believe the Fed has a symmetric inflation target? And in particular, why should we believe you're following an optimal policy, optimal control policy, as you've said in the past, given that that would imply inflation going a bit above target at some point? Thank you.
Well, again, these are individual estimates, big standard errors implicitly around them, and so on. We do think that inflation will gradually move back to 2%, and we allow for the possibility, as you know, in our guidance that it could go as high as 2.5%. Even though inflation has been quite low in 2013, let me give you the case for why inflation might rise. First, there are some special factors, such as healthcare costs and some other things that have been unusually low and might be reversed. Secondly, if you look at the fundamentals for inflation, including inflation expectations, whether measured by financial markets or surveys, if you look at growth, which we now anticipate will be picking up both in the U.S. and internationally, if you look at wages, which have been growing at 2%, and a little bit higher, according to many indicators. All of these things suggest that inflation will gradually pick up. But what I tried to emphasize in my opening remarks, and which is clear in our statement, is that we take this very seriously. It's not easy to, inflation cannot be picked up and moved where you want it. It requires, obviously, some luck and some good policy. But we are very committed to making sure that inflation does not stay too low. And we are continuing to monitor that very carefully and to take whatever actions necessary to achieve that.
And on optimal control?
Well, even under optimal control, it would take a while for inflation. Inflation is can be quite inertial, can take quite a time to move, and the responsiveness of inflation to increasing economic activity is quite low. And particularly given an environment where we have falling oil prices and other factors that are contributing downward forces on inflation, it's difficult to get inflation to move quickly to target. But we are, again, committed to doing what's necessary to get inflation back to target over the next couple of years.
We'll go to Craig, and then over to Peter.
Craig Torres from Bloomberg News. There's been a great deal of discussion in your profession about the potency of policy at the zero boundary. And to kind of bounce off Robin, it's very striking that inflation's fallen while QE3 has been in place, and the economy continues to undershoot the FOMC's forecasts. So I guess the simple question is, are you giving up? You know, I mean, have you reached the limit of your policy tools, and is there nothing more you can do? The economy's still running way below the trend line that existed before the financial crisis.
Well, everything depends on what benchmark you compare it to, as you know. I said last year that monetary policy was not a panacea. It couldn't solve all our problems. And in particular, it can't do anything about a slowing in potential growth, which appears to have happened at least to some extent. It can't do much or anything about fiscal policy, which is working in quite the opposite direction. So given those things, I think the outcomes we've had are perhaps not as bad as you might think. In particular, as I've mentioned many times, the Congressional Budget Office assessed the fiscal drag in 2013 as being about 1.5 percentage points of